Stocks trend upward this weekend as we go into a very bloody weekend with large concerns rather over the coronavirus outbreak coming again. A NASCAR racer finds a noose in his garage. We'll talk a bit about that. AMC looks like they're going to be opening their theaters again with no mask requirement whatsoever. And we'll talk about something that restores my faith in humanity. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Sorry for the extended intro in there. I've been trying to reach out more and do more with Instagram here and Instagram Live, but for whatever reason it wouldn't connect again. So we're going to be going without the Instagram Live, but I will still be here with you guys as my audience and looking forward to you. Looks like we've already got some people up in the live chat here, but we've also got a ton to get to, so it's time for us to move on and get started. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We've got it back up and running, and everybody's stuff is starting to pick up in there. We've got Call Me Ignorant and the Daily Ignoramus. We've got the Generational Gap. We have got Wyatt Birkenhoff, who's also contributed up here in the recent past. We have got the R-Rated Conservative, the Freckles and Brit Show. We've got all kinds of stuff over there. Come over there and check us out there. We've got new people that are going to be added here coming up soon, and come and take a look. All right, let's start out talking about stocks here. So, a title card that I don't have queued up again. That sounds about like me. Looks like across Friday we had a little bit of a dip here, but we still wound up being just a little bit ahead of where we were the day before, so that sounds like a good thing as well. I know economists right now are talking about a V-shaped recovery, but this will be something to keep watch on as we move along here. I always like to look at the chart for the day before just to kind of see what happened versus what happened with the news, and we've got plenty of it stacked up here even from Friday, so let's keep going here. We will start out today talking with Market Watch. Usually I'll do IBD, but for whatever reason I didn't have that arranged correctly up there at the top. But from Market Watch, Dow futures climb as investors weigh hope for a V-shaped recovery against a rise in coronavirus cases. This is from Mark DeCambray. U.S. stock market indices climbed but imply a lackluster open on Monday as investors weighed optimism over a quick recovery for the domestic economy or V-shaped rebound and evidence of an acceleration of COVID-19 infections in states elsewhere around the world. Futures for Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 194 points or 0.8% to reach 25,723. Those for the S&P 500 index advanced 24.10 points or 0.8% at 3083.50. NASDAQ 100 futures added 88 points or 0.9% at 1011.50. On Friday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed 208.64 points lower, down 0.8%. At 25,871 after being as much as 371 points higher at intraday peak. That's the way that they want to put that tongue twister at 26,451.44. The S&P 500 index fell 1760 points or 0.6% to close at 3097.74. But hit an intraday peak at 3155.53. The NASDAQ Composite Index added 307 points, less than 0.1%, to close at 9946.12. For the week, the Dow rose 1%, the S&P 500 gained 1.9%, and the NASDAQ returned 3.7%. Cases of the disease caused by the novel strain of the coronavirus picked up momentum as states and countries continued business reopening efforts over the weekend. But that hasn't appeared to impede appetite for assets perceived as risky as Wall Street. The rise in infection rate is unlikely to enhance confidence in the markets, but there might come a point where dealers become more accustomed to the situation, as a rise in new cases is the risk a government takes when it reopens their economy, wrote David Madden, market analyst at CMC Markets UK, in a Monday research note. The World Health Organization on Sunday reported the largest single-day increase in cases, more than 183,000 in COVID-19, while South Korea on Monday declared its resurgence of the daily virus as a second wave. Domestically, there are 24 states that showed an increasing trend in cases this past week, with California, Texas, Florida continuing to lead the way, each with more than 4,000 new cases in Sunday alone. According to the data aggregated by Johns Hopkins University, the global tally for COVID-19 rose to just shy of 9 million according to the day. And do keep in mind that we are doing more testing at this point, especially like we said, they were testing people, at least temperature checking people going into the Trump rally. I bet you if they popped the temperature check, they ran out and got tested. They're testing all over the place at this point. So once you do more tests, your numbers are going to rise. That's the reason that China had such a great recovery from this and almost no new cases, because they stopped testing. They just welded suspected people into their apartments to say, see, USA asshole. We fix this. We fix. Overall, the U.S. continues to lead the world with a case tally of 2.28 million and a death toll of 119,977, more than double the next highest totals of 1.08 million cases and 50,591 deaths in Brazil. And I still don't buy that number for a second here, because I'm pretty positive that a large amount of this number right here is people that died with coronavirus, not from it. Meanwhile, Germany's rate of infection over a 4-day average climbed on Sunday, and India's death toll rose by 445, its highest single-day tally, as the country reported 14,821 new cases, according to the reports. So, of course, it's an election year, and they're going to try and market this down as hard as they can and shove it down your throats as we continue to go. Let's keep moving along here from IBD. Stock futures mixed amid weak global trade as Apple, Walmart pace Dow Jones today. Chegg, Zoom lead IBD 50. This is from Alan R. Elliott. Stock futures are narrowly lower, sloshing back and forth as on Monday as global markets traded in the red, whilst analyst actions and company news stirred a large share of the early U.S. trades. Airlines and cruise lines dived to some of the pre-market's steepest losses. Walmart led the Dow Jones today on an upgrade, while Apple rose on news regarding its Mac Pro and iMac updates. Dow Jones futures and S&P 500 futures moved about 0.1% below fair value. NASDAQ 100 futures were up 0.1%, moving in and out of narrow gains. Meanwhile, small caps showed modest early strength on the stock market today, with Russell 200 futures trading up 0.4%. On the NASDAQ, United Airlines dropped almost 5%, feeling some pull down from American Airlines Group, which dived more than 7% to the bottom of the S&P 500 after announcing plans to raise $3.5 billion through stocks and bond sales. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? NASDAQ 100 stock Biogen dropped 1.3% after a downgrade from Barclays. Gap led the S&P 500 up 4.7% after a big price target hike from Wells Fargo. Western Digital moved up more than 2% after Benchmark boosted the stock to buy from hold with a target price of 60. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are getting ready to go out and emerge into the economy again and realizing that their clothes don't fit anymore. So yeah, I can see why Gap is picking that back up. Among IBD 50 stocks, Chegg popped 2.5%, positioning shares to continue a rebound from 10-week support. Zoom Video, which is sitting on a 4-week advance that has lifted the stock 35.7% in June, added 1.3% early Monday. Both Chegg and Zoom Video are notable coronavirus plays. Biotechs were on the radar Monday, with Vertex Pharmaceuticals edging up 0.3% and trading just below a flat base buy point with 295.65. Seattle Genetics dipped 0.5% after ending Friday in a buy range narrowly above a 168.20 buy point. Coronavirus test kit maker Genmark Diagnostics climbed 1.2% in pre-market trade. The stock closed Friday less than 4% below a 13.59 buy point in a 7-week cup base. So we got some stuff that's going up, but the airlines are dragging everything down right now, which I can't blame it again, because CNN is trying to shove this second wave down your throat as hard as they can. They are, I wouldn't want to get onto a 40,000-pound incubator if I believed what the mainstream news. I don't even want to do it now, and I don't believe the mainstream news. So I guarantee that the people who live and die and worship at the feet of CNN definitely don't want to get on that airplane right now, or that cruise ship where people were locked there for 2 weeks over in Japan, or anything else like that. Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to do it. And I hate the mainstream news. Alright, let's keep going here. From CNN, K-pop fans are being credited with helping disrupt Trump's rally. Here's why that shouldn't be a surprise. From Julie Hollingsworth. They've helped South Korean stars dominate charts and break records on social media. Now some K-pop fans are claiming another victory, helping foil United States President Donald Trump's return to the campaign trail. Ahead of this Saturday night rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Trump bragged that he'd had about 1 million RSVPs. But when the arena didn't even reach the 19,000 person capacity, many people online were quick to give K-pop fans and TikTok users at least partial credit to the low turnout, and it had nothing to do with the fact that they were stopping and testing people at the front door. And keep in mind that once the president is up on that stage, you are not getting into that arena. You are fucking not getting it. Nobody in, nobody out, because think about the fact that they wanted to hold this outdoors and the Secret Service wouldn't let them. So then they had to have it at an indoor rally, and once again, you're getting temperature checked and tested on the way in. You only have one entrance, and yeah, once he's on the stage, they're not letting anybody in. So yeah, there are a lot of other factors than this whole TikTok thing, but regardless, let's keep going. Prior to the rally, people on social media platforms, TikTok and Twitter, encouraged people to register to attend Trump's event and not to attend. One video with more than 300,000 views called on fans of South Korean megagroup BTS in particular to join the trolling campaign. Following the rally, Democrat Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted at Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale, telling him that he had been rocked by teens using TikTok, flooding the Trump campaign with fake ticket reservations. K-pop allies, we see and appreciate your contributions in the fight for justice too, she added. It's not clear how much of a role the social media campaign or K-pop fans had in the low turnout. Trump 2020 campaign manager Brad Parscale told CNN Sunday that leftists and online trolls who thought they had impacted the rally attendance didn't know what they were talking about or how our rallies work. He added bogus numbers had been weeded out, saying these phony ticket requests never factor into our thinking. So, I don't know if this is actually a thing or not. I really don't. I think that there's a possibility that yes, there was something that went along with that. But keep in mind the fact that TikTok is owned by a Chinese corporation that I don't believe operates in the United States, period. I think that they are solely over in China. And they're also using foreign K-pop fans to do this. So this sounds just a little bit like foreign election influence. You know, that thing that's an impeachable offense. But I'm not a federal prosecutor or a sitting house or a representative, so I can't say whether or not. All right, let's keep going on down to the Daily Wire. Brian Stelter partially credits TikTok users for sabotaging the Trump rally. Kind of in the same vein. Let's keep going down here from Paul Bois. CNN's Brian Stelter celebrated the use of users of the China-owned TikTok allegedly utilizing the platform to sabotage President Trump's rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Saturday, citing the photos of empty seats at Trump's rally on Saturday, a notable departure from his typically large crowd size. Stelter credited TikTok users Mary Jo Lopp for the lower turnout due to a video she produced urging people to sign up for the rally and then ditch. It seems that one of the reasons why there were so many empty seats in a no-show protest, Stelter said on reliable sources, as reported by Newsbusters, a no-show protest. This all started with a video on TikTok. You know, they do love to cite their alternative media sources as well, because, I mean, that terrorist attack that happened over, what was that city over in the Middle East? Oh yeah, Benghazi, that terror attack that happened over there. You know, that was all over a YouTube video. There was nothing else going on there. That was just a YouTube video. It seems that one of the other reasons that there were so many empty seats is a no-show protests. I read that already. This all started on who's effectively being called a TikTok grandma. That's where we left off. So she made a video more than a week ago urging viewers to go to Trump's site, sign up to attend the rally, but pointedly not show up at the rally. Her video was viewed by tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times, and then her video led to others. You had the younger TikTok users going on posting similar videos. K-pop fans were on as well, trying to sabotage Trump's rally, he continued. And look, it did seem to work to some degree. We don't know exactly how well, but Trump's campaign manager, Brad Parscale, was out there talking about how many people were signing up. Trump was bragging that there were 1 million people RSVPing. They were gathering all this data about people they can use for the campaign, but apparently it was a bunch of kids, a bunch of teenagers signing up for the protest. And this is all well and good, and I understand how much you might want to go out and brag about the fact that you did this. We did it. We bombarded and dumped the evil orange man because we're on TikTok and we can use foreign sites to influence the election. Keep in mind that yes, we had lower than anticipated turnout inside the rally. They never talk about what was going on outside the rally, where there were people camping, lined up for days and days on end. Hundreds of thousands of people were lining up around the outside. All they want to do is sit here and focus on the people that got into the arena. So, and once again, keep in mind the security concern of the people that are not going to get in and out as soon as the president takes that stage. The arena became a much bigger choke point for people to get in. So, there are a lot of other things going on here, but yes, we'll let AOC have her little win and go out and brag about what's going on, because it might be one of the last wins that she has. Nah, maybe not. She has a piss poor competitor over in her district, but we'll see. All right, next one here. From 12 News, Trump rally highlights vulnerabilities heading into the election. This is out of Flint, Michigan. President Donald Trump's return to the campaign trail was designed to show strength and enthusiasm heading into the critical final months before an election that will decide whether he remains in the White House. Instead, his weekend rally in Oklahoma highlighted growing vulnerabilities and crystallized a divisive re-election message that largely ignores broad swaths of voters, independent suburban women, and people of color, who could play a crucial role in choosing Trump or Democratic challenger Joe Biden. The lower-than-expected turnout at the comeback rally, in particular, left Trump fuming. There's really only one strategy left for him, and it's to propel that rage and anger and try to split the society and see if he can have tribal leadership win here, former Trump advisor turned critic Anthony Scaramucci said on CNN's Reliable Sources. The Republican president did not offer even a token reference to national unity in remarks that spanned more than an hour and 40 minutes at his self-described campaign relaunch as the nation grappled with surging coronavirus infections, the worst unemployment since the Great Depression, and sweeping civil unrest. Let's go over this for a second. The surging coronavirus infections coming from testing, which everybody over on that side of the aisle said, we need to have testing, we need to have testing, we need to have testing. The worst unemployment since the Great Depression because mayors and governors and House members and Democrat Senate members told you that you were not allowed to go to work. And sweeping civil unrest because police in blue-run cities have a terrible habit of shooting unarmed black men. Or armed black men, if we want to go on to the Rayshard Brooks case. So, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on with that. Nor did Trump mention George Floyd, the African-American whose death at the hands of Minnesota police late last month sparked a national uprising over police brutality, but he did add fuel to the nation's culture wars, defending Confederate statues while making racist references to the coronavirus, which originated in China and which he called the Kung Flu. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was put in there for your benefit. He also said Democrat Rep. Ilhan Omar, who came to U.S. as a refugee, would like to make the government of our country just like the country where she came from, Somalia. Well, if you've ever been in her district in Minneapolis, I would call that fact check true because they are pretty eager to have the government of Minneapolis resemble the government of Somalia, so why not take it to a national stage? Alright, the rest of this article is a bunch of reviews, so we're going to move on from this and see what CNN has to say, and that's always an intelligent thing. From CNN Politics, Trump's kidding on testing exposes his negligence as virus spikes. This is from Stephen Collinson. As the coronavirus pandemic surges in states that embraced his calls for aggressive early openings, President Donald Trump is mocking the very measures that might mitigate a crisis about which he is consistently in denial. Trump said at his weekend rally that he had told his staff to slow down testing for the disease, which has now killed nearly 120,000 Americans, to hide the discovery of more cases. Claims by his advisors that he was joking hardly lessened the questionable motives behind the remark. Trump has meanwhile also helped to turn the wearing of masks, which has proven to slow the transmission of the disease, into a culture war issue. And his rally in Oklahoma on Saturday night was a rebuke of the notion of social distancing, even though, ironically, his smaller than expected crowd would have made such practices possible. Health experts warn that spikes in the infections in states like Florida and Arizona, both of which recorded record highs in his daily infection rates over the weekend, are being driven by the public's waning willingness to avoid large gatherings and a reticence to wear masks. The president's poor example represents a typical effort to divide Americans and highlight divisions over specific issues for his own political gain. But in the long run, apart from putting thousands of lives at risk, it is counterproductive, since a more stringent effort to avoid rises in infections as states open up would likely promote the fast economic recovery on which Trump is banking a re-election campaign and has slipped into trouble in recent weeks. I don't know. What are we, 4,000 points off of the highest economic numbers, or the highest Dow Jones numbers, I should at least say? What are we, like 4,000 points off from the record high that we had? What happened though? We dropped off there out of the bottom, and at the bottom of the economic crash, we got to exactly as high as Barack Obama was able to get in the term before. So there's a bunch of other stuff going here, and if you want to go and mock the economy, well, all it's going to take is to look at the reflection of the economy of the Dow Jones to see what our economic growth has the potential to be versus what you're going to try and feed it to us. All right, let's keep going here from CBS News. Tom Petty's family issues cease and desist after Trump plays "I Won't Back Down" at the Tulsa rally. Yeah, I wonder if Styx is going to talk about this today. I haven't, because I don't listen to any commentary or news before I do this. I do have to wonder, because Styx has that cover of "Won't Back Down" on his website. I wonder if he's going to get this cease and desist letter too. Supporters of Evil Orange Man can't use my songs. Tom Petty's family, let's see. We have an author here? We don't have an author here. That's lame. Tom Petty's family has issued a cease and desist notice against the Trump campaign after the late singer's 1989 hit "I Won't Back Down" was played at the president's Tulsa rally on Saturday. Trump was in no way authorized to use this song to further a campaign that leaves too many Americans and common sense behind, the Petty family said in a statement posted on social media later that night. Well, you're more than 30 years old at this point, so you're at fair use. Keep that in mind. The statement was issued by Adria, Anakim, Dana, and Jane Petty, the musician's children, widow, and first wife. Benmont Tench, the third, a founding member of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, echoed their sentiment. "I in no way approve of Trump even whistling any piece of music associated with our band. I hope that's clear enough," he wrote on an Instagram post. "I Won't Back Down" held a special place in Petty's heart, the Petty family noted. Tom wrote the song for the underdog, for the common man, and for everyone, according to the NPR. The song was considered an inspiration to many fans who wrote to Petty about its impact on their lives. Well, that's pretty much what the Trump campaign has been about. I don't know, a billionaire came out, went his salary, and said, you know what, I want to bring jobs back for the little guy. Seems like the perfect matchup, but you guys are too blinded in your hatred to even see that. So let's keep going on here. The Trump campaign has faced numerous cease and desist notices from musicians who objected to their music being used at rallies, including REM, Aerosmith's Steven Tyler, and Neil Young. Forcing the Trump campaign to stop using music can be tricky, however, due to the blanket licensing agreements often signed by artists, which allow venues to play their music. While artists can seek recourse through copyright violations, as they do numerous times on YouTube with automatic robots that do it. There it is. The American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers states that they may also be able to take legal action even if the campaign has the appropriate performance licenses. Such claims could be based on the idea of false endorsement, where the use of the work implies that the artist supports a product or a candidate, ASCAP noted. So, I see that, I like Tom Petty. I hate the fact that his family is living up to their name, but I mean, it's fair use. It's 31 years old, and yes, he's reaching out to the little guy no matter how little you like it. That's what he's reaching out for in this campaign. He wants to make life better for every American, not just the elites. But I guess we'll see who gets the next cease and desist letter at the Trump rally. All right, let's keep going here from The Guardian. Republican governors blame familiar targets as coronavirus rates soar. This is from Richard Luscombe over in Miami over here at The Guardian. As new coronavirus cases surge across several southern states, Republican governors are looking to apportion blame and resting upon some familiar targets. In Florida, migrant Hispanic farm and construction workers are driving the huge uptick in COVID-19 infections, according to Governor Ron DeSantis, who has repeatedly identified the immigrant workforce as number one source of outbreaks in the Sunshine State. Day laborers contracting the disease are overwhelmingly Hispanic, DeSantis said, and migrant in nature. Well, they kind of live in small apartments with large families inside, so they kind of live up on top of each other. That's, it's nothing against their society. It's the way that they've built their society for thousands of years. Their society is thousands of years old at this point, with the mix of European white settlers and the Aztecs and Mayan people that lived on that peninsula for so much of history. The society is thousands of years old, and that's how they've been doing it for so long that, there's nothing to diss them about for it, but still, on top of it, yeah, it is a breeding ground for COVID-19. I can understand that entirely, especially if it transmits the way that they say that it does. Adding that he'd been given a heads up to health authorities in Georgia and Alabama about what might be coming down the pike. DeSantis' racially charged comments have been blasted as shameful by agricultural workers, union leaders who say the state has been lethargic in providing tests and resources to slow the spread. On Saturday, daily new cases in Florida surpassed 4,000 for the first time. Oh, scary. 4,000 over 4 months. I'm not exactly impressed. Meanwhile, in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has been accused of being very Trumpian for pinning the blame on his state's own record numbers on younger residents not wearing masks and refusing to keep social distance. Abbott's assertions, made without evidence, drew the ire of Veronica Escobar, a Texas Democratic congresswoman who tweeted this week that the governor was effectively modeling the U.S. president's own lack of leadership, refusal to accept responsibility, and keenness to apportion the blame to others. DeSantis, who has also pointed to Florida's high proportion of senior residents in nursing homes for his state's burgeoning figures, and Abbott, who initially refused to back municipalities who wanted to make face masks mandatory, are not alone among Republican governors under fire. Well, the municipalities can sidestep the governor in Texas, and they can do their own thing. He doesn't have to back them. They can still do it. In Arizona, another emerging COVID-19 hotspot, Governor Doug Ducey has been accused of shutting out Democrat politicians as he presses ahead with the state's reopening. Ducey, like his counterparts in Florida and Texas, has insisted that increased testing accounts for increased rates of positivity, an argument that public health officials have rejected as unsound. I don't know. If you stop testing, you're going to stop having your numbers go up. I'm just saying. If it was just due to testing, we wouldn't see the rates we see, and the rates are indicative of the relaxation of COVID-19 restrictions. Murray Cote, Associate Professor of Health Policy and Management at Texas A&M, told Time Magazine, if you really want to get over COVID, we just have to wait till November, because it won't be an election year anymore, and they can't try to affect the economy with it again. But do keep in mind, and I hope you got some savings out for this last run. But they are going to continue to try and do this to shut down the economy, to keep people from moving out of the cities, which I do think is another driver of this, and just in general, trying to make sure that you can't go to work, so you're sitting here suffering and begging for that welfare. Let's keep moving along here. From Variety, a source that I wouldn't normally use here, but I just thought this was interesting as we go along with reopening news. AMC Theaters unveils plan to reopen during the coronavirus. This is from Brent Lang. AMC Theaters, the world's largest exhibitor, has unveiled plans to reopen after coronavirus forced it to close its more than 600 venues in the U.S. for nearly 4 months. The company is expected to resume operations in 450 of those locations on July 15th and expects to be almost fully operational by the time that Disney's Mulan debuts on July 24th and Warner Brothers' Tenet bows on July 31st. I thought Mulan was out already. This shows you how often I go to the movies. As a part of that process, AMC is reducing its seating capacity in order to help people social distance, is implementing new cleaning procedures, placing hand sanitizing stations throughout the theaters, and encouraging contactless and cash-free concessions. We didn't rush to reopen, AMC CEO and President Adam Aron said in an interview with Variety. There were some jurisdictions in some states, such as Georgia and Texas, that allowed people to reopen theaters in mid-May. We opted to remain closed so we could give the country time to get a better handle on the coronavirus. We wanted to use this time to figure out how best to open and how to do so safely. Well, just say that you're protesting, then you can open up fine because the coronavirus doesn't go near race riots. AMC's competitors, Regal and Cinemark, announced their own plans to resume business earlier this week, targeting a similar mid-July timeframe for when they expect to be fully operational. The exhibition sector, and particularly AMC, are under pressure to bring customers back to cinemas. Prior to coronavirus, there was a great deal of consolidation in the exhibition space, much of which made possible by debt financing. AMC's decision to acquire rivals such as Odeon Cinemas, UCI Cinemas, and Carmike Cinemas left it heavily leveraged with more than $5 billion in debt. In recent filings, AMC acknowledged that the coronavirus pandemic could push it into bankruptcy. Aron expressed confidence that the theater chain could be able to avoid Chapter 11 and would be able to have enough revenue to service its debt obligations. In my heart of hearts, I think we can manage AMC through the crisis, said Aron. There are no guarantees, and nobody knows what coronavirus will look like in the winter or how long it will take to get a vaccine. But I can tell you that we have a very able management team here. We're going to make every effort to make sure that AMC continues to be well positioned as a leader in the movie theater industry. AMC will not mandate that all guests wear masks, although employees will be required to do so, nor will AMC perform temperature checks on customers, though it will monitor its employees' temperatures and have them undergo screenings to check for signs of the coronavirus. The situation will be different in states and cities that require residents to wear a mask when they're in public, but Aron said that AMC was wary of wading into a public health issue that has become politicized. And that is the reason that this is on here right now, is the fact that I pulled this article from somebody on Twitter who was screeching, screaming, and crying over the fact that AMC wasn't going to require masks in the theaters. That's the reason that I wanted to talk about this, and that was the reason that this came up here. It is your personal choice and your personal risk assessment as to whether or not you want to wear a mask, especially given the fact that the WHO currently says that you can't spread the disease if you're asymptomatic. That's something that needs to be kept in mind as we're going forward, and we're moving forward and talking a bit about this, is the fact that the WHO keeps changing their mind, but they are in the position right now that, as long as you're wearing that mask, you're fine. Or, as long as you're asymptomatic, rather, wearing the mask. Duh. As long as you're asymptomatic, you can't spread it. You can't spread it unless you're coughing. So, I guess we'll see. And I do, honestly, with all the protesting and everything that went on, I do anticipate we do have another rise in very large coronavirus cases. I do expect that we have a rise in positive tests, which may have been engineered as well. I mean, we started to see the curve start to flatten out, and then all of a sudden now people are standing shoulder to shoulder and protesting in the streets. Maybe that was engineered so that we could come back and have the second wave that we were promised. We're right in time for an election. Who knows? But there's a lot of stuff that's going on here and a lot of stuff we need to look for. All right. From ESPN, something else I don't use very often on this show. I said from ESPN, something else I don't use often on this show. There we go. NASCAR says a noose found in Bubba Wallace's garage at Talladega. A noose was found in the garage of Bubba Wallace at Talladega Superspeedway in Lincoln, Alabama on Sunday, less than 2 weeks after Wallace, who is NASCAR's only black driver, successfully pushed the stock car racing series to ban the Confederate flag at its tracks and facilities. Late this afternoon, NASCAR was made aware that a noose was found in the garage stall of the 43 team. We are angry and outraged, and cannot state strongly enough how seriously we take this heinous act, NASCAR said in a statement. We have launched immediate investigation and will do everything we can to identify the persons responsible and eliminate them from the sport. As we have stated unequivocally, there's no place for racism in NASCAR, and this act only strengthens our resolve to make the sport open and welcoming for all. Wallace never saw the noose, ESPN's Marty Smith reported. Does that dude look black to you? I'm sorry. I don't see it. Hispanic, maybe. But, of course, we've already got Juan Pablo Montoya in this. Wallace never saw the noose, ESPN's Marty Smith reported. It was first seen by a member of Wallace's team, who immediately brought it to the attention of NASCAR, Smith reported. NASCAR told Fox Sports that it will work with law enforcement on the incident. Wallace, who drives the number 43 Chevrolet racing icon, Richard Petty, said in a statement that it was incredibly saddened by the act. Today's despicable act of racism and hatred leaves me incredibly saddened and serves as a painful reminder of how much further we have to go as a society and how persistent we must be in the fight against racism, Wallace wrote on Twitter. Over the last several weeks, I have been overwhelmed by the support from people across the NASCAR industry, including other drivers and team members in the garage. Together, our sport has made a commitment to driving real change and championing a community that is accepting and welcoming of everybody. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this didn't happen. I'm just going to go out on a limb on this one here, that we've got another Jussie Smollett. These garages are heavily secured. You can't just go in there. You cannot just walk in there. So in order for that to have happened, it would have either had to have been somebody on the team or somebody authorized by NASCAR itself in order to get in there, an inspector or a team member out of this. And there's not, they don't just leave this stuff open and unattended and unguarded. They don't. But, I don't know. I've been to a NASCAR race before, and I've seen, this was even before there was COVID, or it was after 9/11, but it was before COVID. And I've seen the way that they handle security on the infield with all of this. And, if that garage is open, then there's somebody there to watch. So, no, you didn't just walk in and put a noose in there because you were mad at Bubba Wallace. It didn't happen. But they're going to try and push this here because it takes on the narrative, and we will see more Jussie Smollett kind of things here, and it'll go from there. All right, next one here. From Fox News, deadly weekend in Seattle, Chicago, Minneapolis, as New York City reports uptick in shootings. This is from Edmund DeMarsh. Major cities in the U.S. reported bloody weekends amid increased calls to defund and disband police departments in the wake of George Floyd's death in police custody. Chicago recorded at least 11 killed and 67 wounded during an outbreak of violence, according to Fox 32. The deaths included a 3-year-old and a 13-year-old girl. The teenage girl was home Saturday night when she was struck in the neck from the shot fired from outside. She was pronounced dead at Stroger Hospital. CBS Chicago reported that 8 of those shot were children and teens. 4 of them died. The 3-year-old was with his stepfather at about 6:30 p.m. on Saturday when he was struck in the back. Witnesses told the station that gunfire came from a blue Honda. Tears are a natural reaction to these tragic stories of violence, but we need to do more than just cry, Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown said. Let's keep violent offenders in jail longer. Let's revamp the home monitoring system. It's not working. Investigators in Seattle are looking into the deadly shooting at CHOP, the Capitol Hill organized protest zone that resulted in the death of a 19-year-old male. Councilmember Kishama Sawant, who represents the neighborhood, reportedly said in a statement that there are indications that the shooting could be a right-wing attack. King 5 said, "Okay, in Seattle, a right-wing attack with a gun. Yeah, that's not happening, kids." King 5 said it reached out to her for more details on the claim, but did not immediately get a response. No motive has been confirmed by the police. Police are investigating a second shooting late Sunday night in the protest zone. Minneapolis, the city at the center of the national outrage over Floyd's death, recorded 1 death and 11 injured in the uptown section of the city early Sunday morning. Fox 9 reported that it believed suspects opened fire as patrons waited to go inside a restaurant. They had to have started over here on the sidewalk and made their way to the middle of the street, here shooting back and forth, Fred Wang told a witness told the station. That's why there's broken glass over here, and also right next to our building, there's a broken window. The shooting drew the attention of Representative Ilhan Omar, who tweeted, "It breaks my heart to see another senseless act of violence in Minneapolis. Our city has been through so much, and we must promote peace by putting an end to gun violence." Okay, a couple things going on here. The New York Post reported Monday that there was 1 shooting in the city per hour on Saturday and cited a police chief who told the paper that defendants arrested for gun possession have been allowed to skip jail during the coronavirus pandemic. The paper reported that 24 people were shot citywide on Saturday alone. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's a lot of things happening here, and there are a lot of moving parts to this. And there's even more going on in Atlanta, but these people are calling to disband the police, and now who do they call when they have something like this happen? Who do you call to keep you safe from this gun violence? And now, of course, people are getting wise to the fact that in these areas, there's going to be less police presence. And the one in the chop zone, just that kind of pissed me off. And I talked a bit about this over on Ed Talk on Saturday. When I talked about it, I realized the fact that I would say that these paramedics were well within their rights to say, "Screw you, Raz. We're not going in there because you're not going to let us have an armed escort." And you've got people walking around with guns. There are other reports saying that this first shooting over in the Chop has something to do with gang violence here, but of course they want to point it out to the right wing right away, in spite of the fact that they chose Seattle specifically so that they could go unimpeded by the right wing. They would dare not do this in a more purple or red state. They would not, because it would come to a very quick and bloody end in a hurry. As soon as you knocked on the door and said, "We're taking over this area," you would be met with large amounts of ammunition and caliber coming your direction. All right, let's keep going here. NPR was being talked about being canceled over the weekend because they pretty much turned something into complete propaganda with this, and let's see what that is. Vehicle attacks rise as extremists target protesters, from Hannah Elam. Editor's note: a previous version of the story included a photo of a protester being struck by a car in Louisville, Kentucky. The photo, chosen by editors, does not appear to be an example of the assaults described in the story, and has been replaced. Police have not charged the driver, but have charged 2 of the protesters involved in that incident. Authorities continue to investigate. Right-wing extremists are turning cars into weapons, with reports of at least 50 vehicle ramming incidents since protests began against police violence that has erupted nationwide in late May. At least 18 are categorized as deliberate attacks. Another 24 are unclear as to motivation or still under investigation, according to a count released Friday by Ari Wheel, a terrorism researcher at the University of Chicago's Chicago Project on Security and Threats. Wheel has tracked vehicle ramming attacks, or VRAs, since the protests began. Has Wheel tracked the number of people that tried to yank people out of their cars? Because that has seemed to be the motivation for everybody who's run somebody over with their car, is the fact that they were about to get fucking pulled out of there. You know, they're not going in there, they're not taking over, they're not going after the people that are standing in the streets protesting, like the ones that are blocking off the interstate. They're being fairly respectful to those people no matter how pissed off they are, but when they get rushed into their cars, crowded, and they attempt to pull them out, that's when things get bad, and you do have the right to your own defense. The 20 people facing prosecution in the rammings include a state leader of Virginia Ku Klux Klan, as well as there's still a Virginia Ku Klux Klan, as well as a California man who was charged with attempted murder after antagonizing protesters and then driving into them, striking a teenage girl. Video footage of some attack shows drivers yelling or threatening Black Lives Matter protesters before hitting the gas. The message they're trying to send is, you need to get out of the street and stop these protests, Wheel said. They're trying to intimidate the most recent wave of BLM protesters to stop their movement. The last rash of vehicle rammings occurred in 2015 and 2016, Wheel said, when the Run Them Over meme was popularized in far-right circles in response to Black Lives Matter protests and demonstrations against the controversial Dakota Access Pipeline. The most high-profile attack occurred a year later during the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, when a professor in a Antifa mask swung a bike lock at a person, and he got in his car and ran away and accidentally hit somebody as he was going along. A white supremacist plowed his car into a crowd, killing 32-year-old Heather Heyer and wounding dozens of others in a bloody weekend that jolted the country into recognizing the resurgent threat of far-right violence. The use of car attacks against peaceful protesters is increasingly a deliberate terror tactic for white supremacists. Yeah, this is what NPR is, and this is what your public radio dollars are funding. So, I can't do that one anymore, I'm sorry. I'm going to throw up in my mouth if I keep reading that one. Alright, let's keep going here. From the Hill, protesters tear down statues of Union General Ulysses S Grant, National Anthem lyricist Francis Scott Key. So, if you thought it was going to end at Confederate generals, boy, were you wrong. Alright, let's keep going. From Marty Johnson. Protesters in San Francisco Friday toppled the statue of former President Grant, who led the Union Army during the Civil War, in Golden Gate Park. San Francisco police said that the approximately 400 people had gathered around 8 p.m. to take down the statue, though no arrests were made, according to the NBC Bay Area. Also torn down in the park Friday were statues of St. Junipero Serra and Francis Scott Key, who wrote the lyrics to the Star-Spangled Banner. Friday was Juneteenth, a national celebration commemorating the last slaves being freed in Texas on June 19th, 1865, nearly 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued. This was the first year it was ever celebrated nationwide. I hate to tell you this. While Grant is widely celebrated as being one of the leading forces who helped the Union win the Civil War, bringing an end to slavery in the United States, some historians have pointed out his complicated relationship with slavery. Grant did in fact own a man named William Jones for about a year on the eve of the Civil War. Sean Kane, interpretations and program specialist at the American Civil War Museum, said in an article, in 1859, Grant either bought or was given the 35-year-old Jones, who was in Grant's service until he freed him before the start of the Civil War. He freed him, but you still want to pull his statue down as a racist. Good job. Kane also noted that Grant married into a slaveholding family that owned dozens of slaves. After Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter, Grant wrote his father, an abolitionist, saying, "My inclination is to whip the rebellion into submission, preserving all constitutional rights. If it cannot be whipped any other way, though, or than through a war against slavery, let it come to that legitimately. If it is necessary that slavery should fall, that the republic may continue its existence, let slavery go." Many on Twitter pushed back against the toppling of Grant's statue in San Francisco. Well, of course, if they see Grant, then they're going to have to ask and wonder why he was a general, because we now have to forget that there was ever slavery in this country, except for the 1619 Project. It's complicated, I know. Elsewhere around the country, protesters have pulled down numerous statues of Confederate soldiers and generals this week, including a statue of Albert Pike in Washington, D.C. on Friday night. President Trump called for the people involved in tearing down of the statue to be arrested, which he doesn't really have any jurisdiction to do, but no, there's just so much going on here, so much stupidity going on here. And yes, they are trying to whitewash and blank out history so they can control the future with it. And I'm sure that people like Nancy Pelosi are very uncomfortable with the fact that they have to know that Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis were both Democrats. All right, let's keep going here. This came to me from a Spartan over in the D-Live side. Rashid Brimage, his victims, and a system that's... Wow. Let me get a drink here before I get too much moused onto this. Let's try this again. Rashid Brimage, his victims, and a system it's designed to fail. This is from the Post Editorial Board, which means that an opinion writer didn't want to put his name to this. Rashid Brimage sums up so much of what's wrong with city services. Despite more than 100 arrests, he was free to walk the streets and allegedly pushed a 92-year-old woman to the ground for no reason. We all saw the video. It wasn't alleged. He pushed that woman. At long last, Wednesday saw him held on $50,000 bail. His social worker said he suffers from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. He's plainly not getting enough help with that, nor has the public been protected from him. Brimage was nabbed Tuesday for knocking the elderly ex-teacher to the ground, as seen on video. Though her head hit a hydrant, she says her injuries were minor, but she's now suffering psychologically. I'm fearful to walk the streets alone, she told the Post. In all the years Brimage has been getting arrested more than 100 times with 36 convictions, he's nonetheless remained free to roam the streets. This year alone, he was busted for misdemeanor and harassment charges in the Bronx in February, nabbed for trespass on March 5th, which is usually a fine, arrested on March 9th for criminal possession of a controlled substance, assault and attempted assault. His regular, frequent, erratic behavior. He's also been hauled in for publicly exposing and fondling himself and grabbing a woman's rear. Brought countless complaints to the police, but they did little except give him tickets and send him back out into the streets. For all the billions Mayor Bill de Blasio spends on the homeless and mentally ill, including his wife's failed Thrive New York City program, people like Brimage get ignored until it's too late. When will those funds be used to help the seriously mentally ill and protect New Yorkers? Not to blame the mayor alone, but city DAs also often opt to not prosecute. Judges refuse to detain defendants and impose light sentences on those convicted, and progressive state lawmakers won't ensure mandatory treatment of the severely mentally ill. Instead, they make it even harder to lock up anyone, including hardened criminals. The last victim was lucky, unlike, say, the 4 homeless men allegedly bludgeoned to death last year by Randy Santos. Public safety ought to be the government's top priority, but not in New York. Yeah, and we read the story last week about Brimage and the thing that he did this time, but yeah, absolutely. There's no reason this guy should have been out. There's absolutely no reason. If not in prison, then at least in a mental health facility, if he's actually this far off, and it seems like he might be. But there's no reason for him to be out on the street just to push a woman down. There's no reason for that. Alright, I got a couple tweets with video here that I wanted to share with you, so let's get our ears on and we'll talk a bit about this as soon as we're done. Alright, this first one here, I see a lot of people that are saying the thin blue line and everything out of this, but honestly, on the fact that the reality is, there are good cops and there are bad cops, and we are about to see a bad cop from T. Greg Doucette, Columbus, Ohio. Police pepper spray a double amputee, then disconnect and take his prosthetic legs. The man crawled on his hands to get medical help while a group of protesters rushed the cops to get his legs back. Let's see what that looks like. And I don't know, it sounds like he's saying medic or murder or what it is, but yeah, good on these people for coming out by and helping him, because, Jesus, to take a dude's legs, come on. I do hope we see prosecution for that particular officer, because that was just too far. All right, next one here. This is a woman confronting one of the men that was accused of, what was this? I don't remember which one this one is, but this is one of the people that was involved with, I believe this is the George Floyd shooting, who's out on bail right now, and he's out getting Oreos, and he gets confronted by a woman in the store. Let's see what that sounds like.
What?
What's your name?
Oh, yeah, that's me.
It is you. So you're out of prison.
Yes.
And you're comfortably shopping in Cub Foods. As if you didn't do anything.
I wouldn't call it comfortably. I'd just say getting necessities or helping.
I don't think you should have that right. I don't even think you should be out on bail.
I can understand
I mean, how does it feel?
I'm sorry you feel that way.
No, you're not sorry. Like, you're literally outside here comfortably as if you didn't kill that man. Did you think that people weren't going to recognize you? Honestly, did you? You don't have the right to be here. You killed somebody in cold blood. You do not have the right to be here.
I understand. I'll get my stuff paid for.
No, we don't want you to get your stuff. We want you to be locked up. You're honestly in Cub Foods comfortably shopping. Out of prison. Like, do you feel any remorse for what you did? Do you?
Ma'am, I'm just going to grab my stuff.
This is the officer who was let out of jail today for shooting George Floyd. Or, I'm sorry, suffocating him. You're not going to be able to comfortably go around Minnesota like this. I pulled up the picture. I knew it was you. It's just like, he was there when they were killing him. And it's just like, this is crazy that you're here just thinking everything's okay. I mean, you don't want to apologize. You don't want to say anything. Like, no. Because this video is going to be on the internet. Yeah, he has the nerve to literally come outside thinking that we don't know what he looks like. How dare you? You're not going to be able to comfortably live in Minnesota after this, or anywhere. And you will be going back to jail. Trust. Trust. Yeah, he bailed out. How'd you get the money? How'd you get the money? And you're lucky that they don't have your address. You're lucky that they don't have your address. Hi. This is one of the police officers that was involved in killing George Floyd. He was out on bail today, and he's over here comfortably shopping in Cub Foods as if.
So I don't know what this woman expects for the guy to. I mean, he's out on an actual bail, and he wasn't the one that kneeled on the neck. Now, yes, it was wrong, the fact that he didn't come in and step in and do this, but there's really no case against the guy. But of course, because of social media and social pressure, his face is going to be out here, and a woman like this, Karen, has the ability to come out here and prevent him from getting food. Food he's in here getting. And, okay, understandably, and one of the things that they pointed out in the comment section was the fact that, well, he shouldn't be out getting Oreos, especially Stars and Stripes Oreos. Well, people want to eat Oreos too. He can do whatever he wants with his money. He is out on bail. He's, at this point, until his trial is done, he has paid his debt to society, so he can be out and do whatever it is that he wants. And the the person who actually directly was involved in this is remanded and cannot come out. But yeah, this is just... It's hard for me to come up with a segment of things that restore my faith in humanity when you see shit like this. Alright, let's turn the desktop audio off, and we'll get the live chat back up, and we'll keep going down the pike. All right, from Fox News. No, I'm not going to disable my ad blocker. No, we're not going to watch this video either. Owner of Ohio store ransacked by rioters says she's receiving threats for cooperating with police. This is from Talia Kaplan. An Ohio business owner told Fox and Friends on Monday that she's receiving threats for cooperating with law enforcement officials investigating the looting of her cupcake store last month. Kelly Kanda, the owner of Colossal Cupcakes in Cleveland, wow, that's a lot of alliteration, which was destroyed by looters, said that some of those threats include people telling her that when her store is rebuilt, it's going to get hit again. She said she also received complaints that her cooperation with investigators is unfair, that she shouldn't be cooperating with the FBI, and that what she is doing is against the cause, which I'm actually absolutely for the cause, but it's upsetting people that I would involve the police over something such as property. Candace said that her store was ransacked while she and 4 employees were hiding inside the locked bathroom of the store on May 30th during protests over the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis police custody. She said police saved her life that day. Candace told Fox and Friends First earlier this month that she has owned the cupcake shop for nearly 10 years. My family built it up, listened to it get absolutely destroyed, Candace told Fox and Friends First on June 2nd. That whole time we were locked in there, I just listened and everything getting shattered and crushed. On Monday, Candace told Fox and Friends host Ainsley Earhart that the week after her store was destroyed, I was showing some of the damage that I was leaving a friend and myself, and someone walking by approached us and said, when the store rebuilds, when you rebuild this, I'm going to come back and destroy it again. And you? He kept walking and was gone. When Earhart asked Candace if she is now scared to reopen, she responded yes. Earhart then asked, what do you say to the critics that say because you called the police, because you are thanking them for now saving your life, that you are racist and you don't support black lives? It's just really sad, Candace said in response. Unfortunately, my store is not open right now, and I'm so involved with the community, and I'm so involved with our inner city schools, and I'm so for the cause that I do a lot of community service. Right now I can't, and I don't have anything being brought to the table to donate as much as I usually do. And this is why I'm saying you're going to start seeing some flight out of these cities. Because nobody wants to deal with this bullshit. Nobody wants to put their life work into property like this and then see it shattered and then be told that you're a bad person for trying to protect it. Nobody wants to deal with that shit. So if you have any chance to get into real estate, commercial real estate or otherwise, at this point, this would be the time to do it, because especially if you're in a rural area or if you have access to a rural area, because you're going to start seeing a lot of motion come out of this. All right, next one from the Daily Wire. AG Barr, if Bolton doesn't complete review process for book, he forfeits its proceeds to government. This is from Daily Wire News. Attorney General William Barr told Fox News Sunday that if former National Security Advisor John Bolton does not complete the review process for removing classified information from his book before it's published, then he will forfeit any proceeds that he makes from the book to the government. What about John Bolton, the DOJ's breach of contract suit against the former National Security Advisor? Fox News host Maria Bartiromo asked, is it too late to push back? I don't think it's too late, because that's what we're asking for him, is to complete the process before the book is published. Complete the process of taking out classified material, Barr responded. And in our view, there remains very highly classified material in this book still, and we would like him to address that. And so, under the law, we're bringing civil action to enforce his agreement that he would do that before publishing. The process is run through the National Security Council, called pre-publication review for any book, Barr later added, and that wasn't completed. The National Security Council contacted us, so that's initially how the DOJ got involved. Barr noted that there would be potentially consequences for Bolton if he did not complete the review process to remove the classified material from the book. Barr said the remedy, if he doesn't complete it, is that he forfeits any money from that book to the government, which is the absolute worst place in the world for it. But, of course, now Barr is being lauded as a hero because he stands up to the evil orange man. And every time I see that, every time I bring that up, that's the first thing I have to bring up to somebody is, well, weapons of mass destruction. WMDs. Because they forget how much they hated the guy, and he was the architect of the Iraq War and the fact that we went into Iraq in the first place. And I'm willing to bet, and I can't speak for the man, but I'm willing to bet part of the reason he's so pissed off with Trump, A, is because he got fired, and B, is because Trump had no interest in going in and carrying on a permanent war. Not Barr. Bolton is a war hawk. He is an absolute neocon war hawk, and he is only happy if our country is at war. So, good on Barr for at least trying to get the classified stuff out here, and yeah, it is amazing to see the left go out and defend John Bolton again. Alright. Oh, I do have one more video. Huh. I turned your ears off already. I have one more left to go. So, Biden is an absolute gaffe machine. We've known this for a while, and he decided that he wanted to speak off the cuff again, and it turned out about like this.
In time when you think about her, the time goes by, you're going to smile before you cry.
That's right.
We make a lot of jokes about it.
That's when you know you're going to make it. It'll work. And the other thing we have in common is I tell everybody you ought to marry into a family with 5 or more sisters.
No.
My wife has 4 sisters. You have 5.
Yeah.
You know why that's the reason?
Why?
One of them always loves you. Not the same one, but one of them always loves you. You always have one ally. So that's why I recommend every man marry into a family of 5 or more sisters. In time, when you think about it,
I don't know what that word salad is, but that sounds like there's some polygamy kind of stuff going on over in Delaware. I just thought that was interesting and a little bit of fun for us to read and listen to. All right, let's keep going here from the Daily Wire again. From Barr again. Barr's had a big weekend this weekend. Attorney General William Barr, mail-in voting absolutely opens the floodgates to fraud. This is from Daily Wire News. Attorney General William Barr told Fox News during an interview on Sunday that mail-in voting absolutely opens the floodgates to voter fraud. Well, there's a big discussion right now about mail-in voting. Fox News host Maria Bartiromo said, Hillary Clinton said, it's fine, it's fair. Well, it absolutely opens the floodgates to fraud. These are things that are delivered into mailboxes. They can be taken out, Barr responded. There's questions about whether or not it even denies a secret ballot, because a lot of the states have you signing the outside of the envelope. So the person who opens the envelope will know how people voted. Right now, a foreign country could print up tens of thousands of counterfeit ballots, and it would be very hard for us to detect which was the right and which was the wrong ballot. Barr continued, so I think it can undercut the confidence in the integrity of our elections. If anything, we should tighten them up right now. And this is a little shorty, which is good because I know we're running up on time at this point here. We're over time at this point from what we're saying here, but I mean, that's absolutely right. And I don't oppose people going in and mail-in voting, but these mass campaigns to send out votes to everybody who's registered, to send out a ballot to everybody who's registered, no questions asked. If you want to mail-in vote, then you should fill out the paperwork and request the paper ballot. If they mail one here, then I'm going to have some problem with the Wisconsin Elections Commission, because I've not requested a mail-in ballot, and I'm sure as hell not going to let somebody else come out and make the vote for me. No, that's not going to happen. You're not going to vote twice in my name. I will go up and vote in person, myself, on Tuesday, and I will have my hand on that ballot until it goes into the machine. After it goes into the machine, of course, I have no idea, and it might get cheated, it might get fraudulently taken out, and it might get destroyed or not counted. But from the moment that I have my hand on that ballot to the moment it hits the machine, I have control, and I can't do that with a mail-in ballot. I understand there is a reason that people need to have a mail-in ballot if they're out of town, if they're absentee, if they're overseas, or anything else for the reason. I understand all of that, but no. Unless I absolutely need to have that mail-in ballot, unless I absolutely need to have that absentee ballot, it's not happening for me. And it shouldn't be happening for anybody else. But that is between the states and their constituents, and Barr really doesn't have a say in it either, unfortunately. Alright, let's keep going. We've got a couple more here, and then we'll do something that restores my faith in humanity, even though I have to paraphrase it because the person locked her account down. Jeffrey Berman is leaving office immediately after standoff with the Trump administration. This is from CNN, from Erica Orden, Manu Raju, Evan Perez, and Karen Scannell. Jeffrey Berman, the powerful prosecutor atop the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office, who has pursued President Trump and his allies, said he would exit his post Saturday, ending a standoff after Trump and AG Barr fired him. Berman's departure came a day after he refused Barr's request that he resign. In a curt letter to Berman on Saturday, Barr told him Trump had agreed to remove him and conceded that Berman's deputy would succeed him. Unfortunately, with your statement of last night, you have chosen public spectacle over public service, Barr wrote in his letter to Berman. Because you've declared that you have no intention of resigning, I have asked the president to remove you as of today, and he has done so. He provided no justification for pushing out Berman. Well, Berman's kind of an asshole, and he's kind of He's kind of a biased judge. Speaking to reporters shortly after Barr's letter was made public, however, Trump said that that's his department, not my department. He added, "I'm not involved." Berman's firing caps a remarkable 24 hours that encompassed a power struggle over the leadership of the most prominent prosecutor's office outside Washington. One that has prosecuted one of Trump's lawyers, is investigating another, and has probed the activities of the president himself. During a meeting at a Manhattan hotel in New York on Friday, Barr had asked Berman to resign, but Berman refused, CNN reported, and hours later Barr issued a statement saying Berman had stepped down. 2 hours later, around 11 p.m. Friday, Berman said he had learned of his purported exit from a press release. "I've not resigned. I have no intention of resigning my position, to which I was appointed by the judges of the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. I will step down when a presidentially appointed nominee is confirmed by the Senate," Berman said. On Saturday morning, with news cameras staked outside his lower Manhattan office, Berman entered the building, telling reporters, "I issued a statement last night. I have nothing to add to that this morning. I'm just here to do my job." Though Barr had said Friday that he would install Craig Carpenito, a person close to Barr who is now the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, to serve as Berman's acting replacement, the Attorney General's letter Saturday noted that by operation of law, Berman's current deputy, Audrey Strauss, will become the acting U.S. Attorney. "I anticipate she will serve in that capacity until a permanent successor is in place," Barr wrote. Berman's strategy of refusing to resign paid off for his former office. In a victory lap, Berman said he was leaving in light of A.G. Barr's decision to respect the normal operation of law by appointing Strauss. The move was viewed as a win for SDNY, where prosecutors had become uneasy over the prospect of a new leader viewed as loyal to Barr. So, this guy is in here. He's railroading a duly elected president, taunting him, saying that he'll be putting the president in prison if he loses re-election. Going after everybody who's associated with the president in lower courts, and just in general being a dick to this administration. He is not an impartial judge. He has an agenda, and he's not fulfilling the duties of his office if he has the agenda like this. We've been through all the documents. We know everything about the president and everything that he's done at this point. Because you've railroaded him and put it all out onto the public eye, whether he wanted to or not, blatantly violating the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments as you go along. So yes, no, this person did need to be removed. And I question whether or not you can have somebody partial at any point in this particular office, but we do need to make sure that we find somebody that is impartial to work in the SDNY office. Alright, last one here, and then we'll do a thing that restores my faith in humanity, and then we'll get on out of here. From CNN, genetically engineered mosquitoes get EPA approval for Florida release. A genetically modified male mosquito named OX5034 has received both state and federal approval to be released into the Florida Keys, now through 2022, against the objection of many local residents and a coalition of environmental advocacy groups. The administration has used tax dollars and government resources for a Jurassic Park experiment, except without the island, said J.D. Hansen, policy director at the International Center for Technology Assessment and Center for Food Safety, in a statement. What could possibly go wrong? We don't know because they unlawfully refused to seriously analyze environmental risks, she said. Approved by the Environmental Protection Agency this week, the pilot project is designed to test the genetically modified mosquito as a viable alternative to spraying insecticides to control the Aedes aegypti. It's a species of mosquito that carries several deadly diseases such as Zika, dengue, chikungunya, maybe, and yellow fever. The mosquito, OX5034, has been altered to produce female offspring that die in the larval stage, as well as before hatching, and grow large enough to bite and spread disease. Only the female mosquito bites for blood, which she needs to mature her eggs. Males feed only on nectar, and thus are not a carrier for disease. The mosquito is approved to be released into Harris County, Texas, beginning 2021, according to Oxitec, the U.S.-owned British company that developed the genetically modified organism. The EPA has granted Oxitec's request last month after years of investigating the impact of genetically altered mosquito on human and environmental health. This is an exciting development because it represents the groundbreaking work of hundreds of passionate people over more than a decade in multiple countries, all of whom want to protect communities from dengue, Zika, yellow fever, and other vector-borne diseases, Oxitec CEO Gray Franson said in a statement. Oh boy, where do we begin? A genetically modified mosquito out in there, and yes, I understand it does seem to be pointed towards extinction, or at least thinning the number of mosquitoes, but when you try to play God with nature, nature tends to come out in full force back against you. And full mutations could be coming along with this as well. So I'm glad I hit Florida when I did, because if this is actually true and this actually happens, we could be seeing major consequences coming up in the future from this. Alright, last thing here, a paraphrase of something that restores my faith in humanity. Because little Miss Safkatra, or Mr. Safkatra, or whichever it is, decided to make his or her account private with all of this. So, Safkatra here, tweets are protected because nobody can now go in here, put out a very controversial statement yesterday stating that it was time for you to cut ties with your racist Trump-supporting family, and it shouldn't be seen as a problem for you to cut ties with them. You shouldn't be met with any sort of social backlash for doing this. And then, later on down the comment thread, there was a big thread about this. Of course, belittling people's fathers for liking Trump because he's racist, and these fathers are racist as well. Basically going down a tweet thread saying that you need to cut your family off, which Mao would be proud about that. Party over family. That would definitely make Mao happy and proud. Possibly Stalin as well. But I brought this up here because, like myself, a lot of other people started railroading her in a comment, which, along with causing her to protect her Twitter account, also had caused her to make a statement saying, well, I'm muting this thread now because I can't handle any of the toxic comments that are coming out of this. And that really restores my faith in humanity. Your family brought you into this world, gave you the values that you have into this world, for good or for bad, for better or for worse. They gave you the values that you had into this. And they do deserve some of your respect, so long as they afford you the same kind of respect that they demand back. There are families out there that do not afford that level of respect to their own family members and their own kin. So there does have to be a symbiotic relationship with the respect. However, especially with conservative ideals of the people who are heavy into the MAGA crowd, they are very much family first. So they are probably sitting out here and being very, very open to their children's new lifestyles and trying to give them the respect that they deserve, but they still want to hold their own beliefs out here. It did seem that Safkatra's big idea was the fact that she wants people to cut members of their family out just based on their political beliefs, and not necessarily the respect that they give and take from people. And the thing that restores my faith in humanity is the amount of people that jumped up and railroaded this poor woman, or man, because it appears to be transgender according to the profile, over the fact that, yes, this is wrong, and this is going to lead us into a division in this country that we can't recover from. We are trying to preserve this country in our family-first, family-centric, and individual-centric world, rather than having the government come in and take care of our every needs, because that is freedom. And that goes right along with what I commented on this. How exactly does it work when he's paying your bills, referring to the transgender person's father, and covering your health insurance? Because I'm willing to bet that this person is under 26. Perhaps you should rethink that Verizon family plan before going to this extreme. And yes, if you're going to cut off your family members, especially if you're in your early 20s and the ACA has allowed you to be on their insurance forever, I would not blame the parents for cutting the cell phone off, the tablet off, the internet off, the rent off, and the health insurance off. If you're going to do this to me, you're done. If my kids ever did this to me, they'd be done. I would take care of them on the insurance for as long as the law allowed, especially if they didn't have the opportunity to go out and get their own. Once they got their own, it's just kind of like how I grew up. Once I got my own insurance, I wasn't eligible to go back on my dad's insurance. But yeah, once they were out on their own and able to do so, yes, absolutely. They'd be done if they ever did this to me, especially in a public setting like this. So, the fact that there are enough people out there that say, yes, this is wrong, Because, I mean, Twitter points you in a certain direction. And there are a lot of people that are afraid to come up and say that this is wrong. The fact that so many people jumped up and said that this particular tweet was wrong, that restores my faith in humanity. All right, we will be back here later on tonight with Ed's World, one of the few remaining episodes we have left. We're almost done with Ed's World, and then something new is going to come out of this. We are going to be going at 5:30 p.m. Central Time because I'll be working around the Generational Gap schedule, which means we will have John on from the Generational Gap. So come and check this out. We've got a good itinerary coming up. It's always a good conversation to come and hang out with John from the Generational Gap. So come hang out with us, chat in the live chat. We'll be reading a live chat between topics, and enjoy one of the last 2 episodes of the show. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.